Years ago, while sitting in my favorite coffee house, I stopped to think about what Christ and the Father had in store for us at the Great White Throne, and then the times before and after. There's not a lot of detail. It's beautiful what's stated and what's clear, but how's it practically work? And so I thought of writing a fiction piece loosely based on scripture. There's nothing to argue about here. I'm not telling you this is how it will be. I'm saying this is what I was thinking. So at times I will sound authoritative or sound like I'm presenting something from the scriptures, but this is my mind. This is my thoughts. This is not an interpretation, a translation, an explanation, or any other thing that would tell you what it's going to be like. It's just my thoughts as I was sitting around pondering what it could be. I've shared this with several friends, and as I've gone through it and continued, they insisted, and I finally saw their point, that I should share it just for fun, because part of what helps us in our life and our day-to-day activities is to envision the future, to see what's coming. God tells us about the celestials. He tells us what's coming. He shares parts of the future because he knows that as we hear it and as we see it, it will stir us to life and action. And it gives us a solid place. So, from his word, those things are true. But this is me sharing my thought of fiction. Do not own this and say, oh, this is how it's going to be, because I will laugh at you. I really will. But it's nice. I think it's kind of cool. So, let me begin. The Age of the Immortals.
I don't know what this is, drowning here at me, Houston, but I'm going to pick it up because,
anything that stares at you, you better pick up.
It's a glass, but in this sunlight, it's reflecting red, green, like a rainbow. Found the first prism on the moon, John. Something like that. 10 rock frags, a couple of which are, one of which is some interesting black glass along the sides of it, another of which is covered with black glass, and, little glass beads all over the place here, John. Oh, boy, that was, one of those fractures that's all included with, glass. Yeah, so those glass, fracture sets. I think the after on this one will be pretty interesting. Here's a rock with glass splatter all over its body.
Hey, Tony, I just picked up one that is in bag 15 that is has a black matrix, bluish black matrix with lap-like either clast or phenocryst in it. And it's right behind the limb here. I don't know whether that's what we're looking for or not.
Okay, that sounds good, Charlie.
This seems to be one of the main reasons. In fact, all these missions talk about this. They talk about this glass splatter, these glass debris samples they're picking up on the moon, which makes me believe that they were up there looking for glass splatters. They were looking for evidence of solar effects on the moon. And I think that the Chinese went up there on the far side of the moon to do exactly the same thing.
Prologue. During the second decade of the 21st century, an incredible pace of change and discovery exploded around the race of mortals on the Earth. The forced paradigm shifts were massive and continuous. Those human beings who populated the surface land on their native world began to discover deep and hidden processes linking science to things unknown in the past 1,000 years. The theories of relativity and quantum sciences were falsified at an astonishing rate as experimental physics overwhelmed computational models. Gravitational theory that dominated the universities and research labs was smashed by the now obvious truths of the plasma electrical model, and that led to a slow awakening to the source of all things, God. The true energy source of stars became known, and the connections that powered their star soul became a topic of analysis and discussion, and additionally, the humans learned of the implications of the galactic current sheet and its periodic, cyclic journey to the solar system. In the early months of 2020, the world had its first major exposure to a predictable yet improbable string of events that led to the end of the world as it was then known. The human species had yet to discover their sun was powered by the transported energy of the galactic circuit. The Earth, by way of the magnetic and radiant forces inherent in all levels of celestial systems, accepted the correct amount and type of energy to power carbon-based life on the surface of the Earth. All the forces had been balanced and maintained by I Am since the beginning. There was no immense independent nuclear fusion furnace at the heart of the sun. Energy passed through plasma conduits from God's source of all things, and then everything worked as designed. Humanity's wake-up call came when the solar system first touched the magnetic field of the galactic plasma sheet, a happening known as the 1859 Carrington event. An X5 solar flare smashed into a non-electrified civilization. While creating a great deal of inconvenience, a curiosity, it brought little dread until the last half of the 20th century, as a few researchers began to understand the mechanics of the event. For over 100 years, few cared to study its mechanics deeply. The glass-glazed stones from the Apollo lunar explorations confirmed a series of frightening theories related to the sun's potential. As the solar system passed deeper into the galactic current sheet, magnetic fields began to reset. Fluctuations were amplified. Large-scale changes began to leave effects over the entirety of the local cluster of stars, and things began a swift progression. Many newly discovered celestial effects stirred into life. Stable stars in the line of the galactic core, Wolf 362 and Betelgeuse, moved to instability and flared to micronova and fierce instability. The weather on all the orbiting bodies of the solar system began to change and morphologize. Most of the atmosphere of Pluto was lost. The giant red spot of Jupiter slowly vanished. Mars, thought to be geologically dormant, entered a season of quakes, and the magnetic field of Earth crashed 35% in the 150 years since Carrington sketched the offending sunspots. The magnetic poles raced across the globe toward the East Indian Ocean. Animal strandings, instability in basic creature behavior, including humans, shifting weather patterns, they were coupled to increased storm intensity. Shocks were visited upon the sensitive microbiome and the neural frames of living beings. The chaos that followed was explained away as man-caused climate change. These were the canary in the coal mine. The elites of the planet were made aware of what was coming. Since the confirming evidence was internationally shared after the Apollo lunar missions, money was pilfered and inflated to create the access and abundance needed to burrow deep into the earth. Also in 2020, the micro fluctuations led to riots and societal changes worldwide. In 2024, A coronal mass ejection was the first, most visible event that was closely correlated to the wave of apparently supernatural happenings. Many were associated with the sun. 30% of the global power grids collapsed. Hunger and massive resource gaps entered into the human population. The type of wars fought in the past by minor nations became commonplace. Enough so that there were always conflicts and rumors of impending doom and wars. First, supply chain shortages came, then conflict-driven deprivation, and then finally, the looping poverty of anarchy-fueled conflicts that created more lack. The world fell into chaos. Political saviors abounded. The species learned anew of the darkness of human depravity and the depth of evil that even an enlightened human was capable of producing. Genocides came out of Eastern Europe, Central Africa, and East Asia. Persecutions, destruction of freedom, wholesale theft, murders, seditions, factions. There somehow was opened an exposure to a parallel reality. Humans discovered that the realm of spirits was not tenuous, but more solid than their own dimensions, formerly called by the names elves, sprites, reptilians, aliens, and in text of faith, they were angels and demons. A cloud of them were driven to descend onto the land. The beings who inhabited what came to be called the Celestials became very familiar to humans. They manifested themselves privately to purchase loyalty from willing individuals. They masqueraded publicly as benefactors and saviors, working through influencers, politicians, celebrities, and in secret treaties with government support, they began to shape the world to oppose a future world conqueror they warned of. Economies faltered. Wars were threatened and fought and put aside to cooperate with the beautiful, luminous deceivers. Poverty, disease, and death became an acquaintance of all who lived, but the luminous ones would save individuals who cooperated. Soon, almost all chose the swift salvation they offered. The demons moved the world from the chaos of the world infrastructure failure toward a brief, brilliant prosperity and peace. But at a cost. With the truth of dimensional habitation exposed, humans began to hear the sounds of a call from the Hebrew and Greek scriptures of the living God. A call to that future world leader. The way was being prepared for a prophesied new eon and a radical fulfillment of the promises that were made for redemption of all things in heaven and on earth and under the earth. These things and many other truths began to be uncovered and displayed. They were not universally known, believed, or attended to, because the humans had created walls of distraction in politics, entertainment, religion, and physical and emotional satiation. The citizens of the planet were crushed under a tsunami of delusion, misdirection, and deception. They remained in this bubble of ignorance that God had constructed until a period of common apprehension was thrust upon them by the creator of the universe, the one called El.